friends, it's Gary and welcome to my all bookish things that I want to do in October. All October bookish things. I don't know how to phrase it, but basically in this video I'm gonna be sharing with you what I have on my physical TBR and also some recommendations by the end. I haven't read many books, so I don't have probably a lot of books to recommend, and maybe in those recommendations you will find a book that you've been wanting to read, that you just need the last push to get to it. And I will also love to hear what are your thoughts, if you disagree with the books that I'm recommending, and if you have read any of the books that I will be showing you, so you can again push me to motivate me to go ahead and pick them up, because I honestly don't think I'm gonna get to all of them. I am a very slow reader. Two that are not necessarily spooky books, but I was in the middle of reading them, and I think probably at some point in October I'm gonna try to get to them. One of those books is Wild and Wrangled by Layla Sage. This is the last book of the Rebel Blue Ranch series. I finished Lost and Lassoed last month in September, so I'm trying to make my way through this one. I just love this series so far. I'm so sad that it's coming to an end. I wish it could go on forever, but I'm just overall very happy with how it has turned out and the good moments that I have had reading the series. And another book that I have already started, and I'm actually more than halfway through it, is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. I am on page 206. I don't think this goes by chapters, but I went through a big chunk of this and I'm really enjoying it. I think it's perfect for the fall, autumn. I don't think obviously it's like any Halloween spooky vibes related, even though I do find the fairies pretty unsettling, because when I got into this book I thought that the fairies were going to be Tinkerbell-ish, just cutesy little little creatures, and they're not. So I'm really enjoying the take of the fairies in this book, the different perspective and all the lore that we're going through. It's not fast-paced at all, but I don't have an issue with it. I feel like it's I've talked about this book before with some IRL people, and I'm like, yeah, like there is not a lot that is happening in this book. This book is like slower paced, but then when I started describing the book, I'm like, wow, no, actually a lot of things have happened, but somehow it's giving me that feeling of like slow paced. But then I would go ahead and rant for 30 minutes about my thoughts on the book, and now not only my thoughts but like things that have been happening on the book. And with Emily, and I think what is the guy's name, I want to say Preston, but I think that's from A Theory of Drowning. What? A Study in Drowning. All my books are like mushing in my brain right now. But anyway, the main characters have been going through a lot of things yet somehow I still feel like it's a slow paced book, when I mean it is, but not. I don't know, it's such a weird feeling. But yes, I'm enjoying it. I'm gonna try to get to it at some point. If it's not in October, because I'm gonna try to focus on spooky books, definitely in November. October is just going so fast. I feel like it was yesterday when I saw all of these book creators, book content creators that were like doing their TBR, fall TBR, autumn TBR, all things fall, and it was like August, and they were just saying like, yeah, I know it's August, but I just want to like get ready, plan ahead for it. And I mean, I don't mind because I love fall, so the sooner I can get fall content, I'm gonna be the happiest. But now I feel like from that moment until now, it has been like a month and a half, but in my brain I feel like it's just been like last week. It happened last week, and now I just realized that we are already starting October, and if I don't sort my spooky TBR or horror gothic TBR now, I will probably realize that, oh wow, I missed everything because it's Thanksgiving now. I really have to focus on these spooky books. A book that I have also started a couple months ago, but it was the middle of the summer, so I thought that it was better for me to wait until now. It's Affinity by Sarah Waters. This book, I haven't really seen it on BookTube or Book Talk lately, but I do remember getting this from somebody recommending this years ago on Book Talk, like 4 or 5 years ago. And the premise was just very interesting for me at that point, even though I don't fully remember it as of now. But in the 15-16 pages that I read so far, we're following, I don't know if it's like a doctor. No, it just says like good work. So it's basically a woman that is visiting women prisoners. So she ends up going to a prison, a woman's only prison, and she's just basically doing good work, as it says on the back of the book, with women that are murderers and thieves and just basically criminals. But she gets close to one woman specific that yes, she is a murderer, but because we follow that woman in the beginning, there is some kind of like horror aspect of why she did it, maybe psychological aspect, I don't know. So I'm really excited to make my way through this. However, because I've been reading cowboy romance during the past couple months, weeks, it's been a bit hard to get to it because it does get a bit intimidating. Chapters are extremely long and it's just paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs. I am fine with it, and I am like, I genuinely want to get to it, but it's just kind of like a big change from like the easy read, just like shut down your brain cowboy romances. So I definitely have to maybe put a bit more effort and thought on these books, but I hope I can get to it. I have a classic here that I feel like every spooky season I see, so I hope I can finally read it and have an opinion on myself, and that is Rebecca. I also started this book years ago, just a couple pages, and I don't remember why I didn't continue. If I remember what I was thinking about the book at that time, I think this is also very gothic horror, atmospheric. I don't know if it's more like psychological horror more than spooky ghosts. So I think I hope this is a year that I am getting into Rebecca. Here's a book that I have had in my TBR for a very long time, The Witch Elm. However, I generally don't know what this book is about. I bought it because I saw a recommendation on BookTube years ago, but somehow I don't really remember what happens in the book anymore, which is great because I love going into books not knowing much about them. So here I think it's basically following the story of a man that has an accident, and he goes to a family home that he has to kind of recover, but he finds a skull in a witch elm. And somehow that opens up a series of events that might be very spooky. I don't know if spooky is the right word. I don't think so, but I would love to get to this soon. And I think it's also very like atmospheric. I don't know if gothic, but just atmospheric overall. Tried reading this again. I feel like I'm just saying that with every book that I've tried reading them before, and for some reason I just haven't gotten into it, but I'm giving myself another chance to read them because all of these books I'm interested in them. I'm on page I think 50 in this book. 50, and we have been following this author that gets into a car accident, and he is rescued by a woman. I think her name is Annie, and Annie is just insane. Some scenes that we have read already where he's just very thirsty, and the struggle of not having any water and or being in a lot of pain. Oh my god, I feel like I just have to drink water now. Only a lot of several scenes that have been quite unsettling so far in this book, even though I'm only 50 pages on it. So for some reason, I always kind of struggle to push through Stephen King books, even though I do like them. And I think they're very interesting, and he has a very unique way of writing. But I don't know. I just feel like, again, he's one of those authors that I'm reading his books and I'm like, okay, like, where are we going with this? And when we finish the book, I'm like, okay, yeah, I actually enjoy the book, but why was I struggling so much reading it? And now, two books that I actually bought this year. They are new additions on my TBR. This one's might be the most horror-like. One of those is Slewfoot by Brom. I've seen this book everywhere. I started reading it, I think I'm on page 8. Again, similar to what was happening with Affinity from Sarah Waters, I've been reading a lot of cowboy romance, so jumping into this much of text was a bit like, okay, give me a break. But not that I don't want to, and not that I'm complaining about it, just that I guess I have to change my mindset a bit. But definitely this, I think, could be easier to read than Affinity from Sarah Waters. I think here we're following a witch. I don't know if she's the witch, but I've seen this book being recommended by so many people, most of them good reviews. So I'm very, very interested. I think it's also going to be atmospheric. The last book that I want to get to is Incidents Around the House by Josh Malerman. I also started this book. Oh my god, how annoying. I know, I've said that a million times. I'm on page 18 on this book, and it's very, very unsettling. I feel like since the beginning you already feel the horror in the first pages. I felt like maybe it was gonna take a while. I don't read a lot of horror, that's why it took me by surprise. But I definitely thought that it was gonna take us a couple pages to actually understand what was happening. But I feel like since page 1, page 2, you're thrown into the horror spookiness. At least for me, I was very unsettled. So I read a couple pages and then I was like, okay, I think I need a break because this got too much. But yeah, I feel like for horror, this definitely is gonna be it. I just still don't know if I am gonna be able to become that unsettled. So now into my book recommendations that I'm checking from my Goodreads. Riley Sager is an author that I've read several of his books. I do enjoy his books. I feel like sometimes there's a bit of mixed reviews and points of view, which is completely normal about his books. I do enjoy them. I don't find them that predictable, probably because I'm just like reading them and enjoying the moment, not really thinking about what could have happened. So I have been actually surprised in some of his books, and even when it has become predictable or I suspect what is gonna happen, I don't mind. Like I'm okay with it because somehow the book is pretty interesting to read. So I will recommend from him Home Before Dark and what is the other one name? Lock Every Door. I would say Lock Every Door is a bit slower paced than Home Before Dark, at least for me. In Home Before Dark, it's a bit more of like haunted mansion type of book. Or well, actually Lock Every Door can also be like haunted mansion. I meant haunted house. But I think Lock Every Door maybe is more of like a haunted apartment complex. I also have a couple of graphic novels. One of them is Fangs. I love this short graphic novel, very easy to get through. The art was really nice, and in here we're basically following a vampire, but more in like day-to-day life. Another book that I really, really liked, and I'm looking forward to read the second one. I don't know if there's gonna be 2 or 3 books. Is House of Salt and Sorrows by Erin A. Gray. Very, again, like it's very atmospheric. We're following sisters. There were a lot of sisters. I think there were like 5, 6, 7, 8. I don't remember. And sadly, things start happening to the sisters. This is based, I think I've heard it that people refer to it being based in another like story, like classic story. Yeah, I think it's also there's also like a Barbie movie about this, but I'm just throwing facts that make no sense altogether. This is not Barbie related. I'm sorry. If I know the reference from where this book is coming from, I will put it on screen because you're probably very confused right now. But I loved it. It was very the atmosphere was very similar to A Study in Drowning. That is like you are in this house in the middle of almost nowhere. Um, we're close to a town, but it's still kind of like away from people, and it's just so gloomy and rainy and wet, and the salt from the ocean is just so gross and corrosive overall. So I remember really enjoying that book at that time. I also read, and I will recommend Last Days. Here you're following like a cult or a sect. It's called like more like a sect, and the ending was just very shocking. It's I think one of the I think it's more like body horror, and I don't know if maybe even body gore. Um, I just remember it being very unsettling. If you decide to go and read that, just make sure to read some trigger warnings before. Of course, I have to recommend A Dowry of Blood. I read these basically when it came out years ago. I also want to mention here, just because they're linked, Dracula and Frankenstein, that they are classics. I think Dracula is a book that you just have to read. You just have to get to it. I read Dracula. Dracula was the first book I've ever read. Of course, I read in school, but I never read for fun. I never read as a hobby. But I had like this vampire obsession years ago, and I decided to read Dracula to see what was the foundation of all the vampire lore. And I didn't like it, but yet I recommend it because I feel like you have to read it. You have to read it to kind of have that perspective and that idea of where is everything coming from. So I think maybe if I reread it, I will enjoy it more, because now I guess I don't have as high expectations as before. Maybe I didn't enjoy that much the first time because my expectations were really, really high, and well, it didn't even got close to what I thought it was gonna be. Same with Frankenstein. Frankenstein I have here on Goodreads that I rated it 2, and I also remember being very disappointed of like, really? Is this what Frankenstein is about? Now that I've seen other people's thoughts lately, because the Frankenstein movie is gonna come out soon, I'm intrigued, and I'm looking forward to rereading it, because I think that I might approach that book differently, and I might maybe see it differently than what I did before. Because I think that when I read the first time, I thought that it was gonna be about this like spooky monster, and I don't think that was the right way for me to approach Frankenstein. So A Dowry of Blood. I always say A Dowry of Love. A Dowry of Blood is basically, I don't know if to say like a retelling of Dracula from the perspective of one of his wives or girlfriends or girls. I really want to read the second one, that I think is An Education in Malice or something like that. I have read several books of Grady Hendrix. I would say Grady Hendrix is one of my favorite authors because I love how his writing style is very different from everything else. The first book that I read of him was Horror Store, and I remember just being extremely confused about what is happening. Is this even horror? Why is this horror? But I would recommend, if you like horror, because yes, his books, I would classify them as horror, but they are just written in a very some people say campy, I guess, yes, in a very campy different way. From him, I've read Horror Store, My Best Friend's Exorcism, We Sold Our Souls, and The Southern Book Club Guides to Slaying Vampires. I think probably the best one is Horror Store. I did also I enjoyed all of them, but I guess another one that I really enjoyed was the Southern Book Club. And I think in that one, what was the biggest horror for me is the men. The men, and how much our main character, female character, struggles to make everyone believe what she's saying. That's a real horror part from that book, in my opinion. I do want to finish this up recommending a couple graphic novels, because I think that they're a great addition when especially if you're reading very heavy horror books. I just love to like sprinkle some graphic novels here and there. Sheets were just basically following a ghost. It's kind of sad from what I remember, but the art is just beautiful, kind of ease it up. With the Vampire Claudia story, I read this book before I actually watched the movie, so it was a bit interesting, but the art is just beautiful. Definitely get your hands on this book if you can. Oh yes, those are all my recommendations. Spooky books. I don't know if to say horror books, because now that I look back at it, I feel like not a lot of them were horror or body horror, gore, extreme horror. I think they're more like atmospheric horror for sure, but check them out if that's what you're into. Let me know if you have any other recommendations. I'm always very happy to hear and see and watch and read what people is recommending. If you have read any of the books that I've mentioned, please let me know your thoughts, and I really hope you have a nice spooky season. I hope I will be reading some of these books on vlogs, so if you're interested on following along and seeing my reactions and my thoughts, make sure to look for those videos in the future. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see you on my next one.